Hi and welcome back. We're going to look at some emails, phishing emails, and see why they are suspicious. So some signs to look out for. You'll see I have a bunch of files here, .eml file. So any email is actually a file. That's how it works. So let's open the first email. And you'll see this is the email right here. You'll see, okay, from a bank should immediately raise suspicion if they have some bank mail. They never send urgent mails. Then you might see that the message is urgent, so they want you to do something urgent. So a lot of users click on those links because it's urgent, right? So that's something to look out for. If something's urgent, it could be a phishing mail. It's suspicious. And if a link is not even showing the website name, so something that's totally not related to the bank, most likely or for sure it is a phishing link. This is one example. So we have that it is from some financial institution. It means it's probably a phishing mail if it's urgent. So if they say your account is hacked or whatever and urgent, it's most likely phishing. And especially if you don't recognize a link at all. Let's take a look at the second one. Another email. Okay, so here we have another urgent email. So if something is urgent, it's probably phishing. I mean, not always, but most likely. And then you'll see here they have it's from Microsoft.com, or at least it seems so. But then if you take a careful look at the link, you'll see Microsoft.com.tk. So this is a fake website. It's a .tk site and not .com site. So you want to check that the link is actually one. And if you're unsure, what you could do is go, for example, in this case, directly to Microsoft.com and see on that site rather than following the link in the email. Most likely, or in this case, it is a phishing mail. You'll see here .tk, so that's not the original Microsoft site. And in the real world, what happens is that if the company wants something, they'll also put it on their own site. So instead of clicking on the link, you could go to your browser and then visit Microsoft.com. So whether it's Firefox or Chrome or whatever, you can go directly to the site rather instead of clicking on the link in the email. Let's take a look at the third one. So another phishing mail. And you'll see this one. We don't see the urgent message. We'll just see important notice. So it can be as well. You'll see blah, blah, blah. And you'll see here this link. It looks suspicious, right? We have two links here. So anything regarding accounts, you have to be really careful with that. They never send important notices with accounts. Let's take a look at the fourth one. We have another mail here. You'll see again, it's urgent, account suspends or whatever. If it's urgent, account suspend or hacked or whatever, most likely it's fake. And in this case, we can see on the link that it's fake. And here instead of, this is from apple.com, but you'll see here Apple with a C instead of an E. So this is a fake link. So in general, what you want is to be careful with emails. If something is urgent or there's some change to an account, most likely it's a scam, and you can sometimes see it on the links or where the link is pointing to. So if we reduce the size here, if we point on it, you can also see the link appearing on the bottom. So sometimes the link appears legit, but then the text, the link is actually the fake website. So in order to prevent phishing, you can just simply not click on links in emails. I mean, there's no reason to. So that's one thing you can do to prevent it. Then for sure you won't have those problems. But if you do, you want to verify that those sites are actually by the companies rather than just any random website. Okay, so some quick tips for phishing mails. Check the sender's email address. So you'll see here, for example, sender@example.com. That surely is not from a bank. Really obvious example. Administration@thebank.com. So check that email is actually correct. And if it's coming from, for example, a bank mail like this coming from Gmail, it would be obviously suspicious because the bank doesn't use Gmail. So you want to check the address, check the sender address. Then with any links, if it's not suspicious, you can hover over it. So not click it, but just put your mouse on top. And then you'll see on the bottom where the link is actually pointing to. So in this case, it's an obvious fake site. but sometimes it looks like a real site, but then when you look at the bottom, you'll see a fake website or a fake domain. You can also recognize them by grammar mistakes. So in this case, it is recognizable because, well, there's no grammar mistakes. And now with the age of AI, ChatGPT and tools like that, it's harder to recognize them by grammar mistakes. You can still recognize them by other symptoms like the link themselves, where it's pointing to, and also the email address, so who's sending this email. And also if the email is urgent or threatening, that's also a sign that it could be a phishing mail. So whenever you're unsure, just verify with the company. So instead of clicking on the link, go to the web browser, Firefox, Chrome, Vivaldi, whatever it is you use, Safari, and then go to the website directly. So in this case, be from yourbank.com. So we would go to yourbank.com directly. Instead of clicking on the link, we would just go to the website directly and then check if there's any notification on the website. If there's not, simply delete this mail. Or you can always delete them and then check the website, prevent clicking on any phishing links. Hi and welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about email security and specifically about passwords. So every email address, doesn't matter which website you use, is protected by a single password. So if an attacker knows your email address, all they need to reach your email is your password, right? Anyone who has your password can reach your emails, basically. So a lot of passwords get leaked online. So if you're like anyone else on the internet, you use a lot of different websites and you sign up and you use a password there. And because there's so many websites asking for passwords, you might use the same passwords on multiple sites. Now, that's a very bad idea, because if one of those websites get hacked, and then what happens is that those passwords then get sold, black market, and those websites passwords can then be reused, for example, to access your email address. So to check whether your email address is being sold on the black market or your password, you can go to a website called haveibeenpwned.com. So that's spelled like this. Have I been pwned without spaces? And then simply type your email address and it will check known databases for if that email address has actually been hacked. You can pick any email address. So let's say you pick some email address. It can then check if that email address has been pwned, and you'll see this email address, just an example address, is actually known by hackers. It's been in 168 data breaches, meaning hacks. So websites get hacked all the time, and those passwords then get sold. So to give you an example, I have the who has been pwned section here. You'll see all kind of websites get hacked all the time. And the passwords then, for example, of this website, a lot of data gets leaked, including the email and passwords. So if you use password of your email, for example, on this site, what would have happened is that they then sell your password with the email together, and then anyone who has it could then log in to your email address. And this is not just random sites, it's also very famous sites. So if you scroll down this list on Have I Been Pwned, you might see companies you know, a lot of different companies. And you'll see this list is really huge because websites get hacked all the time, and then the data gets leaked, including the email address, the passwords, and sometimes other information as well. So if you use same password on multiple sites, it can be that the hackers already know your passwords, and you can check that with haveibeenpwned.com. Thing to do is to pick really secure passwords. So don't pick a simple password that's in a dictionary, because hackers will use password lists, commonly used passwords, to automatically try those passwords in sites like this. For example, if I search for password list in Google, you'll see I get a list of 10 million common passwords. So a hacker will download such lists, and if they want to get in your email, they might simply try those millions of passwords automatically. So there's different password lists. For example, we have a password list here, and this is a shorter list, but 4 million passwords. You'll see examples of commonly used passwords in that list. So it's a really, really long list of 40 million passwords that people used in the past. So that's another thing hackers will do. They will just go through such a list automatically with a software, and try every password one by one until they find one that is the right one. So you want to make sure that if you pick a password, it is not something word-based or company name-based or place-based or simply a number, because such passwords get hacked all the time. So you want to pick a really good password that doesn't make any sense in a language, basically. So you can protect your email account with just a password, but you can also use two-factor authentication. So that's when you use another device to confirm that you're actually trying to log in. So in this case, it's using an iPhone, and the moment they log in, they are asked on the iPhone if they want to log in. So to log in, they would also need the iPhone, otherwise they can't log in. So that's one form of two-factor authentication. Now, I do not recommend using your phone for that, because in the moment your phone gets stolen, you would have trouble to access your email account. It's possible to have a more secure way to log in, but at the same time, if your phone is lost, you're kind of like have a problem. So you can use dedicated two-factor devices, YubiKeys and other types of keys. So those are physical keys that you can plug into your computer, press a button then to confirm that you're trying to log in. So then the idea is that you no longer depend on just the password to log in, but you would also need the extra device. So it could be a phone, it could be a hardware key, it could be a physical key. The idea is not just a password to log in. That will make it harder for hackers to get into your account. If they have your password, they still cannot log in. They need the device also to log in. So many companies these days support two-factor authentication. So whatever email service you look, if you search for two-factor authentication, so 2FA with whatever you use, you can find information about how to activate that. So it could either be by phone or it could be by hardware keys. In general, I recommend using hardware keys because phones get stolen quite a lot. And then you have the problem that you can no longer log into your email. So you want to have a bunch of hardware keys is the most safe option in that case. But the idea is that in the moment that you try to log in, you no longer depend on just the passwords, because passwords get leaked all the time. And then you don't want that someone is then taking over your digital identity. So by activating two-factor authentication, you can protect against that kind of attacks. Now, if you search on the internet for 2FA keys, you can find many different companies that provide such key. I want to make sure that it's singular, so 2FA key, and you can find many different companies create such keys. And then without such a key, the hacker cannot log in. So the password wouldn't be enough. You would also need the key. Now, some of these keys work also with Bluetooth, so if you're using, and with NFC. So if you're using a phone, and of course you cannot plug in a USB into your phone, some of these keys actually fit, or they have NFC, so you can hold it against your phone to log in, because probably you're not just using a desktop computer or laptop, but also some kind of smartphone. So this works on all kind of devices. You plug it in, and then you can verify that you are the real owner of that email account. Now, I get that not everybody does that, and might be too much for some. However, at the same time, you use your email for many different services, maybe even your banking or other things are linked to it. So it's a good idea to protect your email, because many companies, they allow you to reset the password by email. So if a hacker is in your email, they can then hack into other things, into other services. So you want to really protect your email account. Hi, and welcome back. In this video, we'll take a look at the email account from the hacker's perspective. So every email address is protected by an email, is only protected by a password. Depending on the user, they might add more protections, but for most people, they simply use a password. So they could have an email address and then some password. If the hacker would type the wrong password, they cannot log in, right? It's only protected by the password. So they might try it systematically to get in your mail address. So if they have a password list like this one, commonly used password, they might simply copy one by one and do that one by one, trying them. So of course that would be very tedious work. It would take forever copying, pasting one by one. So they would use this method, but use software to automatically go password after password one by one. So they have many tools for that. One of such examples inside this computer system Kali Linux is the Burp Suite. So they could simply start that software in order to do that kind of attack automatically. So they don't even need to do any programming for that. There are automated tools that do such attacks automatically. That's why you want to be very sure that you pick a secure password and not any password that is in such a huge password list. Okay, so they start this program. It's a bit of a specialized program, so it will do some clicking around, but it's just to show an example attack. So from here we go to the dashboard, to the target, and we open the web browser. So just like you would as when you check your email. Then go to the web address. So we have this same login form. And they're not interested in this request, they're interested in the request where they send the password. So they can type some nonsense password. And you'll see this is actually recording what the Chrome is sending underneath. And then if we scroll down in the request, you'll see here it's sending the email address and the password. So of course they want to automate this and then every time change the password. To do that, they do right click here, send to intruder. They change the password field here. Then they go to payloads and they click on load and simply load the list of passwords. They might change the time it takes between every try. So by default it's 2 seconds. Let's say 1 second per try. And then they click start attack. And it then starts trying passwords automatically. So one by one, it is trying different passwords. And then depending on the status code or the length, you can find out what the real password is. So you'll see here the status codes. And it's just trying one by one. So this kind of attack takes a lot of time, especially with a million passwords. It can just take like a whole day or longer to try. But it is the way that they do it. And so what they can do is sort by status code to see if there's any difference, or by length. And you see here there is one that has a totally different length than all the others. So now that's how they know the passwords. They have a different response. So now they have your passwords and they can log in, right? They can then type the password because it's shown here. And then they could log in and take over your digital life, because a lot of services are linked to your email. It's not just your email, but any website that you sign up to, they have the option to reset password by email. So once they're in your email, they have basically access to your entire digital life. So when you pick a password, you want to make sure you pick a really good one and not one that is in such password list. So if you pick a password that other people have used in the past, it's most likely that hackers can already access your email address quite easily. So these are just some examples of passwords used in the past by other people. But this is a really short list, so I have the longer version in the documents directory. Oh, sorry, I think in the downloads. Yeah, so in the downloads directory I have the longer one. And you'll see there are lots and lots of different passwords. That's actually a 14 million passwords list. And this is even a short list, so hackers will have a list of 1 billion passwords even. But of course, the more they have to try different passwords, the longer it takes. So this is just one option they could get in your email address, but not the only one. Right, there are different tricks. This is one of the ways they could just automatically try those passwords. So if you picked a weak password, then it's very likely they can easily get in your email address. So you don't want to pick words directly from the English dictionary, like in this case hearts or lucky one, sporting, or any dictionary for that matter. You want probably something that doesn't appear here at all, which in most cases is random characters, numbers, and so on, which brings to another problem, is that it's very hard to remember. But the things that are easy to remember, like dictionary words, country names, some digits, and so on, most likely they are in such password lists, so they're easy for hackers to get in. Hi and welcome back. With any email you get, you might get an attachment. Now sometimes they are legit attachment files you actually need, and sometimes it's malicious. So it could be malware, it could be a hacker trying to get in your computer, or it could be a virus. or any other malicious software. Now, it doesn't necessarily limit to programs, so it's not just limited to .exe or some kind of executable file. Also, malicious software can be included in, for example, Office files like PDFs, files, Excel files, and so on. So you want to be really careful with any file you download to your computer. So I'm going to download this file to the computer to check it with a virus scanner, virustotal.com. So you'll see I already saved it in the directory unsave. Then I go to the website, and that virus scanner is really good because it checks multiple virus companies. So if we go to virustotal.com, we can then select a file, click choose file, example, and you'll see it's scanned using many different antivirus software. So it's scanned with all kind of companies, and then it came to the conclusion that 0 of them said it's a virus. So you'll see it's scanned with many different companies at once. So rather than just a single virus scanner, this checks many different antivirus companies automatically. So you can scan any email file you get with virustotal.com to prevent getting any malicious software onto your computer. So let me give you another example. We go to virustotal.com, and this time I'm going to upload another file. So in downloads, you'll see I have another file here, and it's now scanning it, and 65 of 66 companies say this file is a virus. So you might get some virus scanners detect it and others don't. So the number is not always 66. It depends on how many companies tell you that it's a virus. And this is a completely free website, so you don't need any payment for this. You can immediately check with many different companies which report it. Of course, you can also use this to test virus scanners. But you can check your file as well. So whatever file you have, you can quickly check it if it is malicious or not. You can go to details. You can get some details about the file. So you'll see this is a test virus, and when it's first appeared on the internet, and the last time that it's been checked. There's some other information as well, like which websites does the program connect to, which computer addresses, which internet addresses. You can get a lot of information about this virus. You can get a lot of information about the file as well. It's not limited to email. Of course, this applies to any file you download from the internet. You can check if it is malicious, if it's a virus or not. And you can also see what website it's connecting to, and you can even see some behavior of the program. In this case, you'll see it's a Trojan, so very malicious. And some technical details you can see as well. So it's a very good website because you can quickly check any file you download. Your computer, you can check if it is malicious or not. You can also do that for a URL. So if someone sends you a link, you can paste the link in there and check if it is malicious. So let's say somebody sends me a link by WhatsApp or by Signal or whatever, Telegram or another chat message, maybe by email. So they send a link, then you can paste the URL in there to that link, to that file, and you can check the link if it is malicious or not. So in this case, the link they send, a few of them telling that this is a malicious file, malware. Others say it's clean. So here maybe you want to be safe and you want to be sure that it's not malicious, so don't click on that link. So that's something you can do as well. For links in general, you can check them. So not just files, but any link you get, you can check if that is a malicious link or if it's a normal link. So both for attachment, for files you download, or for links you get, you can check them on virustotal.com and see if they are malicious or not. They also have a search option. That's a more technical option, which is outside the scope of this course. You can paste a hash and then check that. So if you have a file hash, you can check it. A more technical thing. So with links and with files, you can quickly check that. Also, if they're attachments. Email is widely used and is expected that the number of mails sent by year every year is going up. So you'll see billions of emails are sent. So you might think only people who get and receive the email can read the contents of that email. So perhaps you think that, okay, you send it to the other person, only the other person can read it. But that's not the case. Internet. thing you send through the internet, it can be read by other people unless it is encrypted. So people working in the company of your mail, when you your mail, they can read your emails. Where you're sending to that company, they can read your email. And of course, anyone in between the communication line can also read all the emails. So that's because the mail system is really old. So email by itself is not a secure communication method. Anything you send can be read by other people. So what you can do if you want to have secure communication on email is to use encryption. So what is this encryption? Imagine you have a message. So let's say we change this. This is my email. So let's say this is your mail text. If you would send it like this, then anyone here could read the mail, anyone in between, and anyone here could read the mail as well. So what you can do is to make it unreadable. Let's say we shift every character by one position in the alphabet. You'll see the message becomes unreadable. And of course, we can shift multiple times. And you see that it becomes completely unreadable. And then only if you know the key, if you know the number, then you can get the original message back. So that is essentially encryption. Now these days there are much more complicated encryption algorithms than simply moving the alphabet. So with encryption, what you could do is make a secret message. So let's say this secret message. And then you would send this message over the email to the other person. And the other person would then use the same algorithm to encrypt it. And then they can read the email again. Now in the real world, very, very few people use encryption with email because it's quite a hassle to set up. But it is possible, and it's something to be aware of, that anything you send over email is readable by other people. So in general, if you want private conversations, don't use email, because in email, the whole world basically can read your messages. Anybody who's in these systems, they can start reading those emails. Now legally they are not allowed to, but technically that's possible. And sometimes that does happen. So it's important to be careful with sending confidential email messages over email, because it's not a secure mechanism in that sense that it's simply like a phone line. The communication is sent over the line, but the data itself is not secure. So anyone on that line can intercept the messages. So what you can do is to encrypt your message or file attachment. So let's say we want to send an email to this other person, and we want to send a file that has to be secure. We don't want anyone else to read it. What we then can do is to encrypt that file. So let's say we create some file. We could then save it. Let's add some title here. Could be any type of file. It could be a text file, an Excel file, Office file, doesn't matter. But for simplicity, let's just take a text file. I'm gonna call it confidential.txt. So what we're going to do is encrypt this file. I can do it in the terminal. There's also other tools for it. We're going to use a tool called GPG. So I type the command GPG -c confidential.txt. They ask for a password. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just a very basic, for example. They'll tell you it's a bad password, but we're taking it anyway. And now we will have a new file. So we have a file confidential.txt GPG. And then if we try to open this with text editor, you'll see we only get bogus data. We only get nonsense. So the only way to read this again would be again to decrypt it. So to decode the message again. So, and it would ask the password. This computer stored the password, but then you would be able to read the message again. So that's the idea of encryption. Any tools for that? GPG is one of the most common one. It can be quite tricky to install. It's not user-friendly at all. It's really technical, but it's possible to turn your files into encrypted files and also text messages. Now, an easier way might be to just create an encrypted zip file. So let's say we have that file. Many systems, Windows, Mac, they have an option to create a zip file. So you can create an archive. Let's say we have a zip file, and what you then can do is to add a password to it, so nobody can read it without that password. let's say we create the zip file, and now we have a password protected zip. And if we want to read it, let's say we want to extract it, it will ask for the password. So it's also encrypted, and this is an easier way than doing the encryption in the command line. So you can create password protected zip files. The message itself also you can encrypt. We did some example here, but there are other tools for that. For example, inside some programs you can encrypt the message themselves. Some email services, they enable that from their website, but you have to keep in mind that none of this stuff comes out of the box. So this is things you can kind of hackishly to do. By default, email is not secure, so something to keep in mind.